This is one of the darkest perennial ryegrass blends in the world, and today I'm going to teach you how to overseed it into your lawn. Today I'm going to give you the step-by-step breakdown on how to overseed this extremely dark grass into your lawn. And after that, I'm going to show you the before and after results. But first, let me give you a little background of how I found this dark green grass seed blend, Fireball and Hatrick. Every few years, the National Turfgrass Evaluation Program rates grass seed cultivars on overall quality, density, leaf texture, and color. And this exact blend of cultivars was rated number 1 and number 3 out of every single cultivar of perennial ryegrass rated for color in the last NTEP trials. Perennial ryegrass is already known as one of the darkest grasses you can possibly have in your lawn. But combining the number 1 and number 3 darkest cultivars in the perennial ryegrass category just proves how insanely dark this combo actually is. I needed to see this grass with my own eyes, so I flew over 2,000 miles away to the research farm that developed these cultivars in Salem, Oregon. Here we talked to the owner of Homeowner's Pride, and he gave us the background on how these grasses came to be. So we're here with Troy on the McCarthy Research Farm looking at these space plots. Can you explain to the viewers a little bit what we're looking at?
Absolutely, Jesse. This is a research selection farm where the McCarthys come out here with a crew of people, and they'll take this individual sprig and or a seed and they'll plant it in single cell trays, and then they'll come out here manually and they'll plant every one of these individual plots, and then they'll evaluate them based on color, leaf texture, disease resistance, and seed production. And one of the other things that they do that's a little unique from other people, I think, is they have a research farm in Pennsylvania as well. So we can take them from here to Pennsylvania and make disease selections back there for gray leaf spot, brown patch, you know, a whole litany of problems that we don't have here. And then it'll come back here and go through another cycle.
So out of all these thousands of plants, how many get taken down to your selection and into test plots?
Let's just say out of 200,000 plots, maybe 50 or 60 of them would end up making it to market. And this is where we make our selections for our varieties of perennial ryegrass like Fireball and Hatrick. And what we do is we walk every one of these plots out here and we start flagging certain characteristics that we're looking for. Like with Fireball right here, the color, the leaf texture, the density. We even take our shoes off once in a while and walk around barefoot just to see how soft the plots are. As you can see here, this variety's got a more open canopy than Fireball does, and certainly a much lighter color. This one here, you look at the tops of these plants, probably hard to tell on camera, they don't mow nearly as nice as these Fireball do. You don't see the brown tips on the Fireball like you do the older material. Why would you want to have a genetically dark perennial ryegrass? And there's a very easy answer to that. It doesn't require nearly as much fertility to maintain the color because the plant is inherently dark all by itself. And by being able to reduce the fertility, you'd also be able to reduce the amount of maintenance, mowing especially, on your yard.
After doing my due diligence and seeing how good these cultivars looked in person, I knew it was go time to actually put this down in my own lawn. So first, when is the best time to overseed your lawn with perennial ryegrass? The answer to that question is really going to depend on where you live in the country. Most cool season grasses should start to overseed in late August to early September. This gives your newly seeded grass time to establish before the winter frost hits. If you live in warmer climates, ryegrass is most commonly used to keep your lawn green when grasses like Bermuda go dormant. In these regions, overseeding is usually done in October to early November. I wouldn't recommend overseeding any earlier than that because you're going to be fighting the heat, which will be very tough for your perennial ryegrass babies to survive. So now that we know when to overseed, what are the first steps to actually overseeding your lawn? Step number 1 is to scalp your lawn as low as you possibly can without damaging it. For most people, that's going to be to mow right around the 1.5 inch mark. Your grass is going to look pretty beat up after this, but don't panic, everything is going to be fine. The reason we're doing this is because we want to remove as much of the canopy as grass as possible to give our seed every opportunity to get down to the soil layer, as well as establish among the grass that's already there. This process is going to shock your current grass and stunt its growth a bit, which will give the seed time to germinate and receive sunlight that it otherwise wouldn't get if it was covered by the longer grass. Definitely bag your clippings during this step. It is extremely important to keep all debris out of the lawn. Step number 2 is to dethatch or scarify your lawn to get all of the dead debris removed between the current grass and your soil layer. This is an extremely important step to ensure seed to soil contact. Seed to soil contact is the most important thing when overseeding. You're going to hear me repeat this a few times during this video, because if you don't have good seed to soil contact, your seed will not germinate. Now you can rent a dethatcher, but I would recommend buying one of these cheap electric ones. They work extremely well and have a lot of uses when it comes to lawn care. If you have a small yard, you can use a manual dethatcher like one of these, which will be a bit cheaper, but these things are backbreakers. If you have more than 1,000 square feet to overseed, definitely buy or rent a dethatcher to get out as much debris as possible. I like to use the Scarify attachment when doing this process because it kills 2 birds with 1 stone. The first thing it does is get up dead material and thatch off the top layer of soil. This helps the seed actually reach the soil when we start spreading it. The second thing it does is create grooves in the ground, which will create a perfect seed bed for your seed to germinate in. I like to go 2 separate directions when doing this to ensure I get up as much material as possible. After getting everything up, the easiest way to remove the material is to suck it up with your mower and discard it. Step number 3 is to put down your seed. Now the first question is, how much seed do we actually need to put down? Most people recommend putting down between 6 and 8 pounds per 1,000 square feet with perennial ryegrass. But today with this Fireball and Hatrick blend, I'm going to be putting down 10 pounds per 1,000 square feet. The reason I'm doing this is because my lawn is already pretty thick, and I don't think all of the seed is going to be able to survive and compete with my already established Kentucky bluegrass. In the long run, I may be causing more problems by overcrowding with this heavy rate, but that's the risk I'm willing to take to get this grass as naturally dark as I possibly can. The easiest way to spread the grass seed is to hand spread around the edges, and then to use a normal spreader on a very low setting in the middle of the lawn and go over it multiple times until all the seed is gone. You should notice that the seed should be evenly spread throughout the lawn. If you have any seed that ends up on your driveway, definitely blow it back into the lawn when you're done. That's seed that can possibly grow. Step 4 is to rake in the seed. Do not skip this step. This is a great way to get any seed that happens to be stuck in the existing grass to fall into the soil. Also, this will help cover the seed with any loose soil in the process to get that seed to soil contact. And oh yeah, remember those grooves we made earlier with the dethatcher? This is how we're going to get that seed to fall into those grooves. You don't need to go crazy with the rake, but scraping the ground just a few times in every area will definitely get the job done. It's a lot of hard work, but it'll definitely be worth it. Step number 5 is to roll the seed in. This might be one of the most important steps that many people think is okay to skip, but I'm telling you, do not skip this step either. Definitely find any way to roll your seed into the ground. To do this, you can rent a lawn roller from a local hardware or big box store. You just fill them up with water and roll them over your lawn to get that seed to soil contact. If you don't want to rent one, you can use the weight of your lawn tractor and have your tires do the work for you. Or you can stomp it in with your feet, run it over with your car, do whatever it takes to get that seed pressed into the soil. Today, I'm using the back drum on my reel mower to make sure it's pressed into the ground. I'm going to roll over it multiple different directions to make sure it is. Step 6 is to use a cover. Now, most people are going to tell you to use peat moss or some type of straw, but the cover I'm going to tell you to use today is to use absolutely nothing. That's right, you don't need to have a cover for your seed to germinate when overseeding with perennial ryegrass. I feel like this step is unnecessary for the amount of time, energy, and money you are going to spend by doing it. If you have raked your seed in properly and pressed it into the ground, your existing grass should give it enough cover to germinate in the next 7 to 10 days. That's the beauty of perennial ryegrass, fast germination. Step 7 is to water. Without this step, you will have absolutely zero germination. You need to make sure you keep the seed moist, but not drown it out. So what I like to do is water the seed 4 times a day for around 5 to 7 minutes each time. Every irrigation system is going to be different, but I feel like you really can't go wrong with that 5 to 7 minute range. Just make sure you are not letting the seed dry out. I like to water at 7 a.m., 11 a.m., 3 p.m., and 7 p.m. If you don't have an irrigation system, you can use one of these cheap hose timers, and they let you set your watering times based on certain intervals or hours of the day. Giving your seed a shot of starter fertilizer after the seed germinates can be a great idea if you're low in phosphorus. If you don't know if you are, I would put it down just to be safe. Follow the label on the bag for how much you should put down. I usually recommend doing this after the first mow so your existing grass doesn't choke out the newly seeded grass with new growth after putting down the fertilizer. Within 5 to 7 days, you should definitely see germination and you're well on your way to having some of the darkest grass in the world. Now I do want to say it takes around 30 days for the grass to establish and really get that dark color. So this isn't an instantaneous boost to your color after germination, but you'll definitely notice a difference in how thick your lawn is after a couple of weeks. So it's been 10 days since we overseeded, and all I can say is, wow, what a difference it has made. We forgot to take before pictures of the lawn in this area, but this whole spot right here had a huge fairy ring that was completely sand and dirt that is now completely filled in all of these spots. You can't even tell it was there. Same thing over here, we had a couple bald spots completely filled in. This perennial rye is doing a crazy difference in only 10 days. So obviously the color isn't where we want it to be yet, as it's only been 10 days, but it's amazing how dense everything is looking right now compared to what it was. If this sounds like too much work for you, or you want another option instead of overseeding, you can check out this video right here. Now get off my lawn.